Welcome to Guns, Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I am Gary Gunderson. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart recently had a segment on crime which turned into a rant on gun laws, blaming the so-called lax laws of other states for the crime issue while saying the crime is not that big of an issue.
Now, all of this, by the way, is not to say that gun crime does not exist. Of course it does. When Republicans are the ones who've enabled the flood of illegal weaponry into our cities in the first place. 93% of the illegal guns used in crimes in New York City aren't from here. The guns come from states like Florida and Georgia and South Carolina, where the gun laws are lax.
Okay, this is his main point, the crux of his argument, but it is a very stupid point. Notice what he said. 93% of illegal guns used in crime come from outside the state. That's because New York has a very strict assault weapon ban. For instance, if a rifle can't accept a detachable magazine and has even one banned feature, it's illegal in New York. Regular capacity magazines are illegal in New York. Banned features on rifles include the classics: telescoping stocks, pistol grips, bayonet mounts, obviously to stop the rampant bayonet charges on the streets of New York. Muzzle brakes, threaded barrels, etc. They ban even what Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor calls commonly available AR-15s, the most popular rifle in the country. These guns are not illegal in other states, therefore they are most likely to come from other states. I don't know where else they would come from. Honestly, 93% seems low. I don't see why it's not 100%. If it's illegal to have it in the state, what are these other guns that are already illegal in the state doing in the state if they didn't come from outside the state? And if all blame rests on these states with lax gun laws, those places must obviously be much worse when it comes to gun crime. Astronomically so. After all, these firearms are freely available in the states. It must be like a Mad Max Terror Dome. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not like that? It's almost like the availability of firearms is not the root cause of the issue.
This flood of literally undocumented weapons, Republicans fight every attempt to bring some kind of order and even pass laws to increase the chaos. Look at all the laws and things that they've done.
This section is wildly incoherent, which I will address. But to the larger point, yes, it is one of the foundational rights enumerated in the Bill of Rights, so if they aren't fighting for those rights, they should be replaced, because they are bad. And as I just said, this chaos does not exist in places with better gun laws, so your argument does not make sense.
In 2005, they passed a law that effectively protects gun dealers and the gun manufacturers from being held liable for where their guns end up.
If a gun dealer follows the law and sells it to someone who passes a background check, why should they be responsible if that person later goes crazy or is stolen or whatever else happens? If they didn't follow the law on the books already, they would already be prosecuted. Why do you have a problem with this?
They also try and make sure that terrorists and felons can still get guns.
Okay, this did not pass the sniff test, so I looked it up. One, this is supposed to be about laws that were passed, bringing chaos, but this was not passed. Second, it was introduced by a Republican and would have given the Attorney General the ability to deny firearm transfers to suspected terrorists. The exact opposite of the claim he just made. Sounds good in theory, but it met resistance because of things like the no-fly list, which arbitrarily have kept even a baby from flying. And yes, I'm saying the baby should have a gun. Obviously. So if it's that sort of quality we would expect with this law, just denying people randomly, I'm glad it did not pass. Also, felons can't get guns, that's law and has been for some time.
And just recently, they made sure that they can turn those guns into machine guns with bump stocks.
What? The law you're referencing on the screen is a bump stock ban from 2017, not recently.
I can't read.
And it didn't pass because the ATF took executive action, which the Supreme Court just determined was an overreach of authority. The Republicans did not pass a bill unbanning bump stocks. What are you talking about?
They make it impossible to study the effects of guns.
That's not what the Dickey Amendment did. It explicitly said the CDC could not use funds to advocate or promote gun control. It did not ban research, but most gun violence research is by very partisan organizations that want to ban guns. And there is no federal restriction from the research in general, just a limit to these federal funds. So someone else or some other organization could fund it, you just would not get a federal grant. Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo-hoo.
They make it impossible to track the illegal guns.
Okay, referencing the 1986 bill, which banned any new machine guns from getting to the general public, is laughable. But yes, you can't have a database tracking every firearm because that is the first step to confiscation. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. This collage is all inaccurate. This is supposed to be laws that were passed by Republicans for gun control. This bill would have made grants for gun buybacks. This bill would have given grants to work on smart guns. This bill would have made it a federal crime to sell a machine gun or assault rifle to someone under 16, already a crime. This bill specifically required background checks for any transfer at a gun show. This bill criminalized already illegal straw purchases, a bill requiring FFLs to perform background checks, which are already required, the assault weapon ban that passed the House in 2022, a ghost gun law that requires you to get a serial number before you can make a gun at home, a bill proposing grants if states adopt certain firearms laws. To sum up, almost none of these are laws that were passed. Most were not seriously considered, and most of those also were redundant to existing laws, because your politicians are stupid and don't know what is already illegal or not.
They fight fucking everything. You want to know how cynical it is?
Personally, I don't think they fight enough. Maybe you should fight for a staff that double checks their work before sending you on air.
Yeah, it turns out while he was complaining about the uptick in gun crimes in New York City, he himself was fighting added scrutiny on gun stores, like the two that he owns, that have been implicated in over 25 gun crimes since 2020.
Oh no, a politician has self-interest.
Shocking.
Also, as I said before, if the stores followed the law and went through all the bureaucratic hoops, what more do you want them to do aside from shut down because you don't believe in the Constitution?
It's almost as though Republicans must have a secret plan for this, funded by their billionaires, to flood our cities with illegal, undocumented guns. The Great Displacement Theory. That is obviously what's happening.
And this is the big punchline, ha ha ha, which I was clued into earlier by the odd choice of language in the segment, which is an odd point to make. After all, they're saying that the immigrants' argument is correct if you accept their argument. Anyways, he obviously does not know what he is talking about, and they couldn't even deliver a coherent segment without it being riddled with obvious lies. At least give it a second glance, my goodness. That's all for today. Let me know your favorite weird point in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have other similar videos like this you can check out on my channel in the playlist. If you have made it to the end, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, sharing it with others, and maybe even joining my Patreon. You could do that too. Thanks for watching.